Hello, and welcome to this session, Solving Tactics on ChessTempo.com. I'm doing a back-to-back session today, so if you watched video number 69, this is going to be video number 70, but I'm just following them up back-to-back. And I'm doing this because I'm feeling a little bit out of shape, I'm feeling a little bit sick, and I know how much people love watching me blunder, so gotta give the people what they want. No, not really. I'm doing this just because when I'm sick, I really have a lot of issues being able to get back in shape immediately after. Okay, so if king f5, rook h2, or pawn h2, knight check, rook takes, and if king takes or rook takes, h1 queens. King f7, h2, so I can't stop this pawn with my pieces, so I need to stop it with the threat of promotion. I need to stop it with king f5, h2, f7. King f5, rook check. I'm sorry, king f5, rook check, rook, king takes, rook takes, king takes, h2, f7, king e7. So if rook check, I need to go back to e6 and repeat. How did I arrive at king e5, king f5? If f7, h2, I have no way to stop the pawn. So king f5 is the only way to threaten promotion. So king f5, h2, f7, rook a5 check, king e6, still threatening promotion. Rook a6, king f5 for partition. Takes. Takes, takes. Stupid Tinder. Takes. Takes. Knight e6 check. Takes. h2. Knight e6 check. King d7. Rook h4. h1 queens, rook takes. King takes. And I'm not in the corner, so it should be a draw. h1 queens. Rook takes. Should draw. Alright. That required a lot of non-calculating. I'm not certain how to say it. So if king f7, h2, you have no way to stop the pawn. The idea being king e6 or rook e6, trying to get your rook over, doesn't work because of rook takes, king takes, h1 queens. So anything in front of the pawn doesn't work. King f5 is the only way to continue, is the only way to meet the h2 threat, since now after h2 you can threaten f7 and f8 queens. So that now after rook check you do have rook e5. Rook takes, king takes, queens, queens with check. So this is how I arrived at the idea of king f5. Rook f6 was not a move that I considered. I considered rook a5, king e6, rook a6, king f5, repetition. One line that I did consider was this, and h2. After f7 you have no way to stop the pawn, so I dismissed this line. But yeah, here you bring your rook over, and now you have to prove the draw, which is not actually something that I'm certain I could do. Let me pause and... Alright. So the first thing I see is rook e8, trying to pick up the bishop on e3. But after rook e8, there's rook d8. Bishop f8 doesn't seem to work. There's queen g5 or rook g1 check. Does rook takes c3 work? Rook takes c4, pawn takes c4. No. Something to consider though. So if rook e8, rook takes d8, rook b takes d8, rook takes d8. I would have queen f1 check. King c2, queen e2 check. And if king d3, queen d1 check, picking up the rook on d8. If king c1, I would have queen b2 or bishop b2 check. So rook e8, rook d8, rook b takes, rook d takes, queen f1 check, king c2, queen e2 check, Queen e2 check. If rook d2, I can just take it. So king c1, queen e1 check, queen c2, queen c3 check. I'm not entirely convinced. Rook e8, rook d8, queen takes e3 doesn't work. So I play f4, rook d8 check, rook takes d8, f4, rook d8 check, rook takes d8. Bishop f8 is suicide, queen takes f8, checkmate. So f4, rook check, rook takes, rook check, rook takes, queen takes check, bishop f8, bishop c5, and I lose a piece. Or at the very least, I'm certainly not winning material. So rook e8, rook d8, rook takes, queen f1 check. Rook e8, rook d8, rook takes, queen f1 check, king c2, queen e2 check, king c1, queen e1 check, king c2 repetition. It's not a bad position to get a repetition in. So take once. Apparently not. Oh wait, I have queen takes here. Is that it? Yep. Queen takes d1 check. If king takes, I have rook takes d8 check. Ah, dumbass. If I just spent a little bit longer looking at it. I would have seen it. If I just spent half a second longer. But yeah. So threatening g2 checkmates. Bishop check, king g7, or king g8 rather. The simple bishop g3 doesn't seem like a bad move. Bishop takes, king g8. Or queen takes, queen check, king takes, g takes, rook takes, king g2. 1, 2, 3, 4. 1, 2, 3. Currently a pawn up. Two rather weak pawns, but a pawn up. Rook g3, or bishop g3. Just keeping it simple. Queen takes check. King g8. Queen a2 check. King takes g7. There's just nothing there. So yeah, the simple queen g3 seems best. If g3, queen h6, h4, that just seems so unnecessary. Very unnecessarily weakening. Yeah. Not a lot of concrete calculation there. I just saw that g3, queen h6, the only way to defend h4. And this just seems like a very unnecessary weakening of my king. I believe I have had this problem before. Rook d2, d7, rook takes d7, d8 queens. Was there some Zwischenzug? Rook a1 check, or just the immediate rook a7? Wait, rook takes g2 check. And I believe there's some sort of sick perpetual. Or am I misremembering that? Rook takes check, king f1, rook takes h2, d7, rook check, king e6, king e2. I don't see a perpetual there. So rook a7, rook c7, that does nothing. So rook a7, rook c7, and I'm dead. Rook a7, rook c7, rook a8, d7, rook d8, and if rook c8, rook here. So rook c7, rook a7, rook c7, rook a8, d7, rook d8, c5, c5, king f6, c6, king e7, that's so passive. Rook takes check, king f1, rook takes h2, for some, my mind is telling me that there's a perpetual here, even though it's like, no, it just feels wrong. It feels right and it feels wrong at the same time. Knight takes g2, d7, loses, or rather d7 wins. Rook takes g2, king f, rook takes h2, rook a7, c7, rook a8. Seems to be the only chance. What's the difference? So yeah, this is the... I've had this problem before and it didn't make any sense to me then either. Because it was this exact same line. Someone said, so knight f3 secures the perpetual. Knight f3 secures the perpetual. If d8 queens, knight takes check, king g2, knight check. If king h1, rook h2 checkmates. If king e1, knight f3 checkmate. Yeah, that doesn't make a... I would never be able to see that. Yeah, I can't see that at all. The line that I calculated was this. Oops. And yeah, I'm lost here. But I just didn't see what else to do. Alright. So queen c6 check is the obvious move, but queen f3, nothing going on. Uh, no, that's fine. Queen c6 check, queen f3, there's rook takes, d3. So queen c6 check, he would need to play king g1, king f2, or king h3, or rook f3. So queen c6 check, rook f3. I don't see a good follow-up. What about the simple queen b6 or queen b5? If queen b5, c4, queen b5, c4, if queen b5, c4, queen d7, the knights can go to f2. What about queen a6, c5, knight takes b3, picking up the rook? That seems right. Yeah, queen a6, c5, knight takes b3. I believe I've had that problem before as well, but the last time I had it, it didn't take me so long to solve. Sickness. In sickness and in health. Bishop g2. What about rook g3? Rook g3, and if queen f5, bishop h3. Rook g3, and if queen h5, rook g3, he has two squares, queen h5 and queen f5. Rook g3, queen h5. And what do I do? Is there anything in particular that I can do? Rook h3, queen h5, bishop e2, queen h6, or queen takes e5. Not seeing it. There's bishop takes c4, I suppose. But there's no other way to hit the queen. There's the immediate queen e2. Oh wait, there's the immediate bishop e2. The immediate bishop e2 would take away the h5 square. If queen h3, bishop g4 check. If king f5, bishop g4. Okay, wait. So yeah, bishop e2. And the queen can only go to f3 or h3, after which I win the queen. Okay. Ben Feingold, Black Pieces. Isn't that the guy with the place in Atlanta? The club in Atlanta? No. Black to move. If g5, if bishop g5, h4, e3, pawn takes, e2, pawn takes check. No, that doesn't look very good. So king g, queen g7 check, king h3, king g4, queen g7 check, king h3, queen takes. No, she doesn't have takes. So she's out of checks. Now if queen g6, if king g6, queen g7, king h5 would be a repetition. So yeah, king g4 is the only way to go. Just a matter of bishop e5 doesn't work, king g6 doesn't work, so clearly the answer is king g4. Let's just do one more problem. Try to keep it under 40 minutes, or around 40 minutes. Check. King e8, rook e1. Huh. king e8, rook e1, rook d7, king d7, queen check, king d8, queen check, king c8, queen takes f8 check, king b7. That looks horrible. So king e7, rook e1 check, knight e4. Is pretty much forced. Is there a difference between king e7 and king e8? Yeah, if king e8, queen e6 check has to be dealt with. But if king e7, it doesn't. So king e7 is better than king e8. King e7, rook e1 check, knight e4, forced. Queen d3, queen d3, and I can just give back the knight, I guess, just give up the piece. King g6. Why did I not consider? I didn't even consider king g6. Why did I not consider king g6? Queen g3 check. Now what? King h6. Queen g4. King here. That's no. So king g6. Queen g4 check. What do you do now? Go back to h6. Rook takes, pawn takes. Huh. Rook takes, pawn takes. Rook takes, queen takes. 97 check, that's obvious. Rook takes, queen takes. Rook takes, pawn takes. Rook c7. Wait. No. e7, e6. So rook takes, pawn takes, e6. Queen b7. Rook c7. And if f6, rook takes, pawn takes, e6, f6, rook c7, queen d8, knight check, king h8, bishop check. Should work. Or queen check. Queen check to hold everything together. Okay, so rook takes, east, nope. Threatening checkmate and threatening knight g6. I think this is yet another problem where I got it right, the last time that I saw it, but I didn't get it right this time. Let's call it a session there. Hopefully, I know that this was a pretty horrible session, but hopefully I won't be so abysmal once I'm finally better again, no longer sick. So we'll call it a session there. Thank you for being here with me tonight, and I'll see you next time. Goodbye.